Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Shekalim. We are up to Perek Hey Mishnah Gimel. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Aranbayev and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Menuchatam Began Eden. Amen. We learned earlier in Mishnah 1 that Yohanan was responsible for providing the tokens and Achia was responsible for providing the Nisachim. Then Mishnah now explains what this means. Nesachim are brought to accompany Olah and Shalamim offerings and consist of flour mixed with oil, which is burnt on the altar, and wine, which is poured on the altar. The required amount of flour, oil, and wine varies according to the kind of animal offered as the Olah or Shalamim. A system was developed to allow people to buy the Nesachim in the temple. Because the flour, oil, and wine were offered on the altar, special safeguards had to be followed to protect them from Tumah even before they were designated as offerings. It was difficult for people to maintain these safeguards in their own homes. So for this reason, these items were made available in the temple itself. First, they would pay money to Yohanan, who as proof of payment would give them a token that indicated how much flour, oil, and wine they had paid for. This Mishnah teaches that different tokens were used for this purpose, representing the various kinds of offerings. Arba'a chotamot hayu b'mikdash. There were 4 different tokens that were used in the temple. Now the tokens were pieces of parchment that were stamped with Yohanan's personal seal. V'chatuv alein egel zachar gedi choteh. And written on each of them was a word that indicated what its holder required. 1, calf, which meant that he required the nisachim that accompany a cattle offering. A cattle offering is accompanied by 3 isaron of flour mixed with half a hin, 6 log of oil, as well as half a hin of wine. And isaron is a dry measure that is equal to the volume of 43.2 eggs. A hin is a liquid measure that is equal to the volume of 72 eggs. Number 2, male, which is a ram, for the nisachim that accompany a ram offering. A ram is a male sheep that is more than 1 year old. A ram offering is accompanied by 2 isaron of flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin, 4 log of oil, as well as 1/3 of a hin of wine. Male sheep younger than 1 year old have the same nisachim as goats and female sheep. Number 3, kid. For the nisachim that accompany a goat or sheep offering. A goat or sheep offering is accompanied by 1 isaron mixed with 1/4 of a hin, 3 log of oil, as well as 1/4 of a hin of wine. And 4, a sinner, for the nisachim that accompany the offerings of a mitzorah. A mitzorah whose tzarat is healed brings a series of offerings to complete his purification process. Ordinarily, he brings 3 lambs. 1 is an olah, 1 is an asham, and 1 is a chatat offering. Each animal offering is accompanied by nisachim. Chatat and asham offerings are not usually accompanied by nisachim. However, the mitzorah offerings are an exception. So in addition, a mitzorah requires an additional log of oil, 1/12 of a hin, which is applied to his right ear, thumb, and toe. In total, then, a mitzorah requires nisachim for 3 lambs, 9 log, as well as an additional log of oil. So for this reason, he was given a special token that indicated his need for this combination of flour, oil, and wine. Now, a mitzorah is referred to as a sinner because tzarat generally comes as a punishment for one of 7 particular sins listed by the sages in Arachin, page 16a. Another Tana disputes both the number of tokens and the language in which they were labeled. Ben Azai Omer, Ben Azai says, Chamisha Hayu, there were 5 different tokens, V'aramit katuv aleihen, and an Aramaic word was written on each of them. Now, Aramaic was the commonly spoken language during the Second Temple period, while many people could not read Hebrew. Labeling the tokens in Aramaic made it possible for people to see if the administrator had mistakenly handed them the wrong token. Now, although the Mishnah lists 5 Hebrew terms, Ben Azai holds that the Aramaic translations of these items were written on the tokens. Number 1 through 5, Egel, Zachar, Gedi, Choteh Dal, V'choteh Ashir. Calf, male, kid, poor sinner, which was used for the nesachim that accompany the offerings of a poor mitzorah, who offers 1 lamb and 2 birds. And a rich sinner for the nesachim that accompany the offerings of a rich mitzorah, who offers 3 lambs. And the commentators explain, a mitzorah who cannot afford all 3 lambs replaces the lambs for the olah and chatat offerings with 2 birds. Bird offerings are not accompanied by nesachim. Therefore, Ben Azai teaches that there was one token for a poor mitzvah who requires only the nesachim for a single lamb, 3 log, plus an additional log of oil, and a separate token for a rich mitzvah who requires the nesachim for 3 lambs, 9 log, plus an additional log of oil. The sages, however, say that a poor mitzvah was simply given the token marked kid, which entitled him to the nesachim for a single lamb. He would bring the additional log of oil from his home. Since his additional log was not offered on the altar but simply applied to his body, it was not essential for it to have been specially safeguarded from tumah. And the Rav does tell us, V'alacha ki Tana Kama, that Rav follows the opinion of the Tana Kama. Now the Mishnah specifies the animals represented by each of the tokens. Egel mishamesh im niske bakar gedolim uktanim zechem unkevot. The calf token was used for the nesachim that accompany cattle, which were the same whether the cattle were small, large or small, meaning adult or young, male or female. Gedi mishamesh im niske tzon gedolim uktanim zechem unkevot chutz mishel elim. The kid token was used for the nesachim that accompany sheep and goats, whether the sheep and goats were large or small, male or female, with the exception of rams, which are male sheep more than 1 year old. Zachar mishamesh im niskei elim bilvad. The male token was used only for the nesachim that accompany rams. Chotem mishamesh im niskei shalosh be'emot shel mitzorain. The sinner token was used for the nesachim that accompany the 3 animals that are required of rich mitzorat. People that have mitzorat. People that are mitzorain. That is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have an Erev Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.